Next we have reversible and irreversible process. Now what is meant by a reversible process? A reversible process can be defined as a process which can be retraced in opposite direction. Suppose we bring a system from initial volume and initial pressure Pi to final volume and final pressure Pf, and if we reverse the process and get the same state, this is in forward direction. In the backward direction, we go from Vf Pf to Vi Pi and we get the same state, then this process is called a reversible process. So such a process in which a system remain in equilibrium, a process in which a system remain in equilibrium is called a reversible process. But equilibrium will be at every stage, okay? A process in which a system remain in equilibrium at every stage. Of the process is called a reversible process. We can also define it as like this. A process is said to be reversible if it can retrace its original path. Original condition of equilibrium. Like suppose we are bringing a system from initial state to a final state through this path, and we bring the system from final to initial state through the same path, then this process is called reversible process. Next we have irreversible process. And it can be defined as a process which cannot be retraced back to its in opposite direction is called irreversible process. For example, suppose we have a system with initial condition, initial volume is V1 and initial pressure is P1, and we bring it to another state with volume V2 and pressure P2. Now if we bring the system back to its original way such that if we reach to this point and the volume is V3 and pressure is P3, then this is called irreversible process, because we didn't get the same volume and same pressure while going back to the original position. So this is called irreversible process. In other words, we can say that a process is said to be irreversible if it cannot retrace its original path. If a process cannot retrace its original path or original condition of equilibrium. It's called irreversible process. Next we have another process. Example of irreversible process is work done against the frictional force. Against the frictional force. And the flow of current. Are the example of irreversible process. Next we have another process which is called quasi-static process. We have another process which is called quasi-static process. What is meant by a quasi-static process? It can be defined as if a process is carried out very slowly and in very small step. We call it quasi-static process. I will give you a simple example. Suppose we have a gas cylinder filled with gas and it is covered with a piston. This is the piston. Now suppose we have sand grains. These are the grains of sand, small pieces of sand. Now if we pick one grain of this if we bring this one grain of sand and put on this piston, after some time we bring another grain and put on this piston. If we bring another grain and put on this piston, if we bring another grain and put on this piston, so by this way we carried out the system, like we are pushing this piston downward very slowly by putting small grain of sands. So the changes is very small, and this process is called quasi-static process. Now in quasi-static process, at every stage at every time the system is in equilibrium, because there is a small change, so small change is negligible, so we call it in equilibrium states. Because if the piston is without grain, its volume is Pi Vi, let's say. If we put a small grain, okay, the volume will be Pi plus delta I, and pressure or volume, and pressure is Pi plus delta I, but delta I is very small, which is approximately equal to 0. So we can say that Pi Vi is equal to Pi plus delta I, or Pi Vi plus delta I, or Pi plus delta I, into Vi plus delta I. Or we can say that volume without a grain, sand grain, is equal to approximately equal to the volume with a grain. If we put another grain, then there is again a very small change delta I, which is negligible. So by this way we carried out the system from one state to another state, but the process very slow and in a very small steps. So in quasi-static process the system is always in equilibrium, and also it is reversible. Suppose we put a grain here, we put another grain of sand here, we put another grain of sand here, so the piston move down very slightly, but if we remove the grain then the piston will move up. So this is a reversible process also. So this is all about quasi-static process. Thank you.